Good day YouTube, how you going? It's David back with bonsai related videos. Today, if you don't know what this is moss. Good old fashioned moss that grows everywhere and anywhere. You can pick it up from pretty much any site in winter. Like I just went today to an abandoned kind of old site that had concrete on the floors and is exposed, and there was tons of this stuff, tons and tons and tons. So I just scooped up a few chunks of it and brought it home. It's the main reason I collect moss like this is for aesthetic purposes on displaying my bonsai. Now I've got a show coming up, an exhibition coming up, so really this is about just tidying up my bonsai ready for display, and moss plays a nice part in it to make it look attractive. Because I recently repotted my trees, the moss hasn't naturally just grown back on the trees, so on the soil surface that is. So this is about now using the moss here that you collect, applying it to the tree to make it look presentable and also look quite real. It looks like it's growing in a field, growing out somewhere, in a forest or on a grassy plain, somewhere. So it's about aesthetics, it's about look and feel. But you can see this nice moss. So I just grabbed the whole chunks of it, put it in a bucket pretty much, filled the bucket up, brought it home, put out these trays, laid out the moss evenly, threw out some bits that I didn't like, kept the bits that looked pretty good, and now it's about, and then I actually washed it. So I've just washed this with a hose, just washed the top surface so all the dirt can get away, so I can see which pieces are really nice and which look good. So what I'm going to do next is show you how so there's a few steps in preparing this moss, or what I do. It's pretty much just what I do, but I don't know if everyone else does the same thing. But it's just getting it ready, picking the right pieces and picking the spots on the trees where it should go. So let's see how we go, guys. So I was hoping the sun would go down or be covered by clouds, but we somehow got a beautiful sunny day today in Melbourne. A bit cool, but still sunny. So I'm hoping you can actually see what I'm going to do here. I'm going to try my best to explain through some things. So this trident you've probably seen before. You can't probably see the top, I just want to show you the base. You've seen this trident before, on the roots on the rock. This tree's going in the exhibition, but because I recently repotted it, there's a lot of exposed area here that has roots that look fine and not the best. So I'll just bring in close, maybe just to show you. So you see how those roots are there are exposed, so around here as well. So we just want to make sure, see how the bit of moss flows from the trunk and the rock. We just want that to keep flowing through and look natural. So you see how those roots are just a little bit exposed. We just need to cover those and get it looking really nice. So that's what I'm trying to do today, and I'll just show you how I do it with the moss. So let's get set back up here. Alright, so I've got a couple of trays of moss that I collected. So they're really big chunks of moss, and I'll show you that you just don't. So there's massive chunks like that. Now I never just go put this bag on here as one big chunk. I actually break it into smaller sizes. Now, for a couple of reasons. Mainly one of the first reasons is the birds love moss. So what probably will happen, and hopefully I'll survive this the next few days before the exhibition, is they will come and dig and they'll see the moss and they go, oops, here we go, let's dig all this up. Now if you have a big huge chunk, that whole chunk will just disappear. They'll rip it up and see you later, and it's gone. So that's one of the main reasons. But I like to have smaller pieces at different angles and positions, and it looks like little bits of moss growing here and there, not just one big chunk. One big chunk, I don't know, it just doesn't look right on the tree. I mean, probably some of the bigger sizes about that size. So that's a nice size piece of moss there. It looks nice and pretty, and good to go. That's about a medium size that I would use. So another nice size. Probably the biggest I'd get to is something like that. I wouldn't use any bigger than that. Okay, so, but first thing I do is I grab the moss. Looks really nice on this side, but then I turn it around and it's got the clunky old soil, the gluggy old soil from the site that I collected. So the first thing I do is just try and scrape as much of that away as I can. So you see it's pretty yucky. You can use a knife, I just use the back of this. You can use also another spatula, whatever you got to try and scrape this away. I scrape as much as I can without ruining the roots of the moss. Or you get some scissors and you can cut some of this off. It does actually work. So you just cut, as long as you try and get the most of the chunk off it, not all of it, but majority of it, because you don't want that fine stuff being around too much. So now, it's a very dirty job again, but it's a bit flatter. It's hard to see in the camera, but I'll try and show you. So it's a bit flatter, and that's a nice piece. It's not, before it was more rounded, now it's flatter. That's what you're looking for. So if I take this piece, I'm already noticing I need to fill in this gap. So I'll start filling this gap. So I'll just position it roughly like that, but you don't do that. You need to actually press the moss into the soil, into as much as you can into the area you want to display and show off. So you just put it like that, and then I usually just push in with my hand. Now because I wet it before, because I washed them before, there's got a lot of moisture in there already, so it helps with the pressing. So I go around the edges and press the edges. Try and get the edges pressed in as much as you can. Pressing the edges in holds, like it tries to grab the soil better. So my technique is I always try and press in the edges. Look, don't press in the middle bit. I try not to do too much of that. I do a little bit of light pressing, because if you squash this, you could ruin the look of the moss. But around the edges, it buries that in nicely, and it kind of makes a tighter fit into the soil, and it's got a nice little mound to it, so it looks like the moss is actually growing. Looks like a little bit of a hill. So that's how I think of it. I know it sounds a bit crazy maybe, but I'll just bring in here and show you how that moss is sitting there, nice and plump. But around the edges, I have pressed it right in. Okay. So I'll show you a few more, and then I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. So I go around looking for the best pieces to use. I try and avoid really thick, long growing moss. I like the finer, thinner growing moss. How do I explain that? So the moss layer on the top, the green layer, is very short. It doesn't have really long pieces of, like, imagine grass, really long grass, or very small, tight, small, short grass. That's what you're really looking for, the short grass. So again, clean up a lot of the mess. So if you get little bits of moss like that falling off, I've got tons of it, so that's not going to be any good, so that just gets tossed. But so I've got another nice beautiful piece there. See that? Nice and short this is. Nice and short. And now I'll look for where I want it to go, probably right near alongside it. Again, I press all around the sides, then give it a little touch in the middle. So, and that's the next piece done. But what I'm not going to do is not going to cover the whole pot. I don't want to cover the whole pot. Some people do, some people don't. I probably don't. Citrus trees you probably can get away with covering the whole thing, but I want to try and keep the moss off this newly repotted tree. I just want to cover this main area, the root area that's exposed. That's just what I want to do. Some years I cover the whole thing, some just depends on what you feel like. But this year I'll probably come out to about here and make it little different angles and looks a little bit more natural, not just stops at this point. It might come out a little bit here, come out a little bit here, and different angles and so on. So it doesn't look contrived. That's the word I was looking for. So that's the second piece done. Now just keep going through. Same process. Oh, this got a lot of soil on this one. You could use a knife. A knife's another good way to get rid of this old soil. I don't need my scissors in this case. But I do like having wet moss to work with. It just makes it easier to press into the soil. Okay, same bit. Same process. Do around the edges. Now you could use, a tool to do that. Press it in with that. I just find my fingers just as good. Press around the sides. Push in the middle a little bit. That's the next piece done. So there's three nice pieces in there. So I'll just keep working my way around. I'll do a little time lapse of me working through the tree, and then I'll show you the final result on this tree. And I'll do a few more, like some of my minis that I'm putting in the display, just to show you the difference and what I plan to do with those. So I'll be back soon. Okay, so I have finished my initial, putting of the moss on the soil surface. Now you can see how they're nice and plumped up, but on the outside they've been pushed in, but the top is nice and plump. So that's what I like to do now. And you can see how some bits come out. See, some bits are leaving some soil there, so it doesn't look so contrived. And just spinning the tree around. Now, some of you might have noticed I did also do the back, mainly because it also covers the wire that was holding the tree in. So that's one thing. Also, you notice here, I put one in this little crevice because it looks nice. Even though it's at the back, it's still required. I just like to do it all over. But that's the general idea. Now I've dirtied the pot. I cleaned my pot the other day, and now I've dirtied it again. But I'll just give that a nice clean before the show. But there you go. That's how I applied to this tree. Now this tree is ready for the exhibition. So in terms of mossing, so now I'll just get some other trees and do the same process, and I'll show you before and after pretty much, because now you've seen what I've done, and yeah, I'll just give you an idea of the rest of the trees and how I go about it. Maybe I'll show you a small one though, how quick and easy it is to do a small tree. So give me a few secs. Okay. So here's a little shimpaku that I am putting in the exhibition. Lovely little tree, very small, one-hander, one-hand tree, you can see that. But it looks very messy and raggedy. Even though it has moss that grew naturally on it, it just doesn't look that nice. It looks quite messy now. I'll try and come in and show you a close-up. Hopefully that comes up reasonable. So it's a bit messy, a bit ugly. There's probably can't see the wire mark in there. There's wire there, so I want to cover that. So this is pretty easy. I just go about it pretty much, because it's such a small tree, such a small pot, such a small area, I'll pretty much cover the whole bit, whilst leaving, I just try and expose the nice roots. So I try and clean this up, and just to show the nice roots, so if you can have a look, there's some nice nabari there on this tree. It looks quite pretty. Hopefully you guys can see that. So I just want to keep that exposed, clean up some of this, and put the moss in amongst around the area. So that's pretty much what I'll do with that, and I'll show you the result when I come back, so you can see the difference. Okay, so now you can see the resultant work that I did. Now you can actually see the nice roots now exposed. So that's, in a nutshell, how a little mini tree can be mossed. I did moss the whole pot, but I left the nice roots there exposed. So there you go. That's what I've done to that tree. And that tree is ready for the exhibition as well. Nice little mini shimpaku juniper, one of my favourites in my collection again. Now, aftercare of the moss, probably what I'll do now is, all you need to really do is give the moss trees a very light sprinkling of water in the mornings. I prefer to do the mornings. You can do it in the evenings, but I just give it a nice sprinkle, check up on it, just to make sure it stays there and is good to go for the next week, while I prepare for the exhibition. So just keep checking on it once a day usually. Give it a bit of a spray of water, just water it in. So I'll just give this a light spray now, and the other tree too that I just did, and all the other trees that I've mossed as well. I'll show you. Pretty much that's it. So just be vigilant and try and make sure you don't over moss them. But in this case, you can see I've just left the nice roots there, so you can see it, and then I've mossed the rest of the pot. Okay, so I've pretty much spent most of the afternoon mossing up my trees. This is another little trident that's going to be in the exhibition. So there's the moss for that one done. Looks quite nice. I did the whole blanket, the whole thing, because this one looks more like it's in a paddock somewhere. It doesn't have a rock or anything, so pretty standard. I'm sure you've seen this little mini Chinese elm. It's in that one as well. Did my little black pine, just a little bit of moss there, not too much. Did my tiny little mini that I changed its pot in, so you can see that one. It's looking quite nice too. And here's another little shimpaku juniper that's going to be in the show. That's mossed up nicely. So is this little guy, which you can see through. There you go. Ultimately, you just want to get some nice moss, a little bit of moss on your tree, and this is how you do it. This is my method. So I'll just keep watering that in in the mornings on all my trees, and hopefully that lasts till the show. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. More to come in the future. Please subscribe so you get updates of new notifications to videos that I put up. Thanks guys, see you next time.